The light rose out of the void. 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 Pushing, pulling. The light rose out of the void. Matter, energy. The light rose out of the void. In the dance. In it. The light rose out of the void. Through the song. The light rose out of the void. The heartbeat.
Yes, I've been learning vicariously through the artography.
Me
That's
too.
good. Oh, how's everyone today?
I feel great. I feel great. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Many things going on. Many things going on. Everything at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Within the Vacuum has new music that he's releasing and that we've been playing around with. There's like a clip that I put in a recent video of this one where I do some Mayan, use some Mayan chanting, and that one's pretty good. And I did a different visuals for it. So that's cool.
Nice.
Definitely.
I tell you, adding visuals to it, and it's just happening. It's so organic. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The talent's coming.
What do you call it? Earlier, which goes into something that you posted recently, Kevin. I was reading this book called SongLines. And it's about ancient aborigines and like just like the Mayans too, like reading the beads. This was like all of like this fractal progression of living out the ceremonial dance, like the beginning and the end, you know, like the creation dance, the dance of the dead. So like each day and each like progression like reflects the whole, right? And so like in the same sense, like all of these stories are like these songs, and these songs are like not only of like symbolic meaning, but like the landscape. And like anyways, that's like how they navigated too, which was like an interesting thing that they're talking about. By singing the world into existence, the ancestors have been poets in the original sense of poesis, meaning creation. No Aborigine could conceive that they created the world as was in any way imperfect. His aim was to keep the land the way it was and should be. And the man who went a walkabout was making a ritual journey. He trotted in the footprints of his ancestors. He sang the ancestor stanzas without changing a word and a note, and so recreating the creation. And like when you think about it too, like this goes into like, you know, these concepts of that's like the morphic genetic field. Information is different than how we're normally taught. Like we're taught this like really low bandwidth way of like digesting information, but it's like all around us. And like this like embedding the song into the landscape, and like both the song was both mapping and directing, direction finder, like a compass, providing that you knew the song and you could always find your way across the country. And so like the song was the journey.
That's weird.
You know what I mean? And so like every progression of the song is like a new, you know, notch in like the journey of the landscape.
Nice.
Anyways, that's what I was reading recently.
That's amazing.
Yeah, song.
Yeah, and it probably works for traveling in the universe also.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Following
you
the
know,
song.
in the same way, those song lines, right, are also, I think, what I'm playing with are like the Dreamtime landscapes. So you know, like how they have like songs for like the physical landscapes. The songs of the ayahuasqueros are the songs of like the Dreamtime landscape, and like things that you get taught in like Toltec dreaming are different landscapes of dream areas that, like, if you really do it instead of just like read it but like live it, that's what I'm kind of mean by like skin of your dreams. It's like living in a different like reality tunnel, right? And so like if you actually like do that, then you get access to like that information, you know, in the same way those song lines. So it's interesting, you know, when we're talking about what we do here at the Frog Pond and shaking the pumpkin is like, I think that's what I want to do with like the recent stuff of like blooming of the Dreamtime. It's like, okay, let's restart. Let's start from like even before the word. They even had this one section in it when it's talking about, let me see. But okay, to get grips with the concept of the Dreamtime, you have to understand it as the Aborigines' equivalent of the first two chapters of Genesis, with one significant difference. In Genesis, God first created the living things and then fashioned Father Adam from clay. But here in the Aborigines, the ancestors created themselves from clay, hundreds and thousands of them, each of a totemic species. I was thinking about this because I was listening to this Terence talk.
When you talked about the dream, it reminded me of the Aboriginal culture, and that's kind of how they live their lives in the dream time. Is that what you're talking about, living in the dream, being in touch with?
Yeah, to some degree. I don't know that much about Aboriginals. I'm interested. I read Bruce Chatwin's book, SongLines, and I found it absolutely fascinating. And if you want an example, I mean, I'll talk about it for a minute because it bears on something I'm very interested in. Part of the transformation that I think is going to happen to us lies in the way we deal with language neurologically. Because under the influence of psychedelics, especially short-acting tryptamines like DMT, you experience phenomena which seem to be transformations of the language modality. And I've described this stuff as visible language, that you can actually sing meaning into visible existence. And I've seen this on ayahuasca. This is what ayahuasca is about. The famous group states of mind that anthropologists talk about. What they really are three-dimensional acoustical sculptures that are made by groups of people who are loaded. And it's an extraordinary thing. It's an experience you can't have any other way. And it's just not quite telepathy, or perhaps more than telepathy. And the key concept in communications is bandwidth. Bandwidth. The more bandwidth you have, the more detail, color, tone you can impart to your signal. Well, a very low bandwidth channel is the small mouth noise channel. I mean, this is about as primitive as it gets. I mean, short of doing it in Morse code, doing it by voice is very, very, it's amazing that we understand each other at all. And in fact, you may have noticed one of the most uncool things you can do is ask somebody, would you explain to me what I just said? And they say, oh, well, oh dear, I'm afraid I was, generally, and a lot of floundering around. In these ayahuasca states, what you see are group-generated acoustical hallucinations. And because ayahuasca is composed of psychedelic compounds which occur in normal brain chemistry, In other words, nothing exotic to human brain tissue is present. It raises the question, well, how close is normal metabolic chemistry to be having an ability to do this? And the answer is, nobody knows, but very, very close.
But it's kind of funny to think about like this relationship with language and like mapping out and direction, because of like where we are now, you know, and how much noise. Like I think we often talk about like noise, talking about like the, you know, the opposite of the music is like the noise, and to kind of like, I don't know, reset that, or like noise canceling thing. I don't know, but something about like that idea and using that, like, okay, starting from like even before the word was like sound, like the Dreamtime, the bubbling, like before it collapsed into like material, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Information, like, or pure like vibration. You know, it's a combination. It's like the Kybalion. It's like the Hermetic principles. It's like the ingredients to create worlds.
Yeah.
or music to create music, actually. All of the elements, vibration, correspondence, polarity. Sorry, is from when I discovered that book, I thought, yeah, this is amazing. It's talking about that. It's talking about music, how to create, you know, like the basic ingredients.
Yeah. Totally. That's something like me and John, who kind of like runs like the Discord, we talked about like mandala narrative, but like what we were doing in here as like I was talking about narrative stock. He has this thing about like narrative broth, and we got it from like this other guy or whatever, and it was like broth, like as like this Taoist term. And I'm like, oh, as a cook, like there's like this one little thing, and I learned it from my chef in culinary school. But like stock takes like days to do, you know, like but like broth is like a quick thing, and there's like a whole other thing about stock. And so I was like, oh, what we're doing here is like this narrative stock, and like we're getting like different like bones and like different like bay leaf and a mirepoix and like different core ingredients to create that what I was talking about, like that skin of the dreams. And
language is such an odd phenomenon anyway in our species. I mean, notice that you have to have two people to do it, which raises a real question about how you get that coordinated the first time out. And it's a behavior. It isn't an organ. It isn't like my arm, my nose. It's a behavior, and a learned behavior. And yet a behavior so much more complex than any other behavior you ever learn. I mean, if the average person could walk like the average person could talk, they would be a prima ballerina of the Russian ballet. It's very interesting that we have such facility for the linguistic enterprise, and how it evolves. It's changing all the time. And well, is it just changing in a kind of forward lateral direction, or is there some kind of vertical gain here? I mean, can we actually describe things better to each other than the ancient Greeks could describe things to each other? Can we say things which they couldn't say, or anything of consequence? And I maintain yes. I maintain that culture, you know, freeways, international airports, and so forth and so on, that's just the trailing edge of evolving language. Well, so here's a story which relates to this, that is in Bruce Chatwin's book, SongLines. There are these things called songlines which cross Australia, and they can be thousands of miles long. And if you're a shaman and one of these things crosses your territory, then you are the keeper of the song of that part of the line. You must learn and keep this song. There are 137 Aboriginal languages in Australia. So these people did the following thing. They went to a place near one end of the song line and they recorded a shaman singing his song of that place. And then they went 2,000 miles to another part of the same song line and they found the songkeeper of that place. And they played the guy's song for him. And it was in a language he didn't speak, and he had never been away from his own home. He had never been to this place. So he listened to the song, and after a while, he began to sing with it. Not the words, but the melody. And he sang with it. The way you could sing with green sleeves if you didn't know the words, but you heard the melody. And then, after it was over, he said, the man who sang this song, his place is a Beaut with 3 mountains and eucalyptus filling the valley and a red rock like a lizard over here. So then they tried to analyze, what is happening here? Is this telepathy? Is it magic? What is it? And I think the key to understanding it lies in, I've recently seen, you can actually buy for about $600 a piece of software where you glue electrodes to your head and sit down in front of your computer and you see an undulating landscape of neural readouts that look, lo and behold, like mountains, valleys, escarpments. It's like a visit to Utah. And I am convinced that what's happening is that when the shaman listens to the first shaman's song, he does not process the sound the way we do. He processes it the way this computer is processing this neurological input, and what he's seeing is an acoustical environment of sound, and he can see the place. The song is the way it is because the song is not a song. The song is a hologrammatic acoustogram of the topology of the land through which the song line passes. These people are called the most primitive people in the world, remember? So I just recently became aware of this. It's very exciting to me. I'm interested in this software, but this is the kind of thing that lies out there. Because you see, the world arrives at the surface of your skin as one thing, but the senses bifurcate the incoming signal. The light goes to the eyes, the acoustical signal goes to the ears, the tactile signal is conveyed through the skin, and so then when we reconstruct the world, the wells are showing rather prominently in the model. And what happens with the psychedelics is, it seems as though somewhere deep in the brain there is an organ or a program that can take all of the incoming sensory data and actually recombine it into a synesthesic whole, which is neither seen nor felt nor heard, but which is, hologrocked or something, a sense which unites all of the other senses. And that's what I call going into this informational superspace. That's what the psychedelic experience is. It reunifies the sensory datum of the world, and I might add the whole world, not the surface of the world, which is what is conveyed to us by light, but the internal dimension of transcendence, which is in the world, is also